folks. For this round, we're going to have a look at a common guilt trip abuse of this passage, one we hear from both fundies and fundy atheists. The premise is that by using Romans 14, you can pick out something some Christian does which you object to, whether it be dancing or playing video games or even wearing costume jewelry, and say, I'm a weak person, and you doing that affects me. Therefore, you have to stop doing it. Well, let's debunk that sort of trivializing use of Paul's words. In that regard, let's go back to a vid from 2013.
Hello everyone, this is the Apostle Paul, a servant of Jesus Christ, and I'm told some of your more, shall we say, paranoid readers of your day have accused me of immorality concerning idol meat. Specifically, one of them has said that I taught that idol meat was perfectly acceptable unless someone else thought it was wrong. Well, I certainly won't put up with that sort of misrepresentation. Let me introduce you to two of my friends, both of them members of the church here in Corinth. This is Gokus. He does not believe it is right to eat idol meat under any circumstances, because, after all, it has been sacrificed to a pagan god. And this is Vegetus. He disdains Gokus' complaints, because, as he sees it, the pagan gods are false anyway, so the meat is being sacrificed to nothing in reality. Now, here's the problem I've faced. On the one hand, I can hardly argue that the pagan gods are legitimate entities, such that their sacrifices had any real meaning. In that sense, Vegetus is right. On the other hand, as you will have seen in Luke's book, The Acts of the Apostles, the church as a whole has decided that our people should refrain from eating things sacrificed to idols. To answer Vegetus and those who agreed with them, I presented two arguments. The first is that the sacrifices might be unwittingly offered to demons, so that Vegetus and his friends are, in a sense, still wrong. The pagan gods may be frauds, but there are still potentially live beings behind them. Secondly, I argue that someone like Vegetus may offend a brother like Gokus, who is weaker on this point, perhaps even causing them to apostatize. Your commentator in that time rather perversely turned my admonition around, from a moral appeal for consideration for one's brothers, into a libertine permission to eat idol food as long as your brothers don't see you do it. But that is not what I said at all. Now then, let me deal with another thing I wrote, upon which your commentator also errs. The decree our church made in Acts works under the assumption that people know what meat has been sacrificed to idols and what meat has not been. That is always true at the religious festivals the pagans hold. However, it is not true at the meat markets. So, if you buy meat from the market, or you are served meat as a guest at someone's home, aha! You have no idea whether what you're eating has been sacrificed to idols or not. You see? It is in this light that my instructions are clear. The Christian is free to eat what is found at the market or at a guest table, unless and until they are informed that it has been sacrificed to idols, which is only sensible after all, for the food itself has no idolatrous properties. It is the knowledge of the sacrifice that instills those properties. So, allow me to sum it all up for you. In the market, there simply was almost no way to tell what had and had not been offered in sacrifice to idols. Items were hardly put into bins marked, "Sacrifice to Zeus today." And if you're eating at someone else's home, there was only one way to know if food was sacrificed to idols. That was when your neighbor put it down at the table and made the announcement. In that case, you were hardly in danger of eating idol food in the first place. You'd know it before it made it to your mouth. But more than this, for your neighbor to make such an announcement meant that as a host, they were trying to be sensitive to you as their guest, in case you did not want to eat idol food. So, if your host is silent on the subject, you may conclude that you are not eating idol-sacrificed food. Simple as that. So then, I hope this has cleared up a few things and shown you that these paranoid commentators of yours are completely misreading me. Until next time, this is the Apostle Paul saying goodbye from Corinth. Gokus, how many times do I have to tell you not to use your Kamehameha waves in the marketplace? And I thought it was hard enough getting those two women at the church in Philippi to stop fighting.
Now let's continue with our analysis. Applied to the alleged situation of offense, two things are of note. First, these are not terms on which an atheist can approach a Christian. The passage refers to relations within the Christian group, between brothers. Second, even if it is a Christian who makes an objection, and is a so-called weak brother or sister who comes along judging, they are violating Paul's instructions. Paul outlines a situation in which the two sides are to dialogue and compromise, not condemn and judge, which is God's domain. Now notice the parallel situation in the vid we just looked at. The approach by the strong brother was essentially, don't ask, don't tell. It is not until someone points out that the meat was offered in sacrifice that the strong believer is expected to react for the sake of the moral perception of the other person. Paul uses the word destroy, which is a powerful one. It is the same word used of those who are eternally lost, or of what King Herod wished to do to the infant Jesus. In other words, the reaction of the weak Paul is concerned with is not merely, that sort of bothers me that you do that. What we're talking about here is a real and serious problem that leads to eternal destruction. The word grieved is also pretty powerful. It's the sort of word that indicates a serious stumbling to the point of grievous injury. These are not matters of a simple sort of personal offense, but of someone whose loyalty is so weak that they are in danger of apostasy. And frankly, I don't see much chance of that happening just because someone else is playing video games or wearing costume jewelry.
Oh yeah? Well, I'm a fundy, and cartoons make me want to apostatize.
See you next time.